Mr. Anderson, we meet again.
Mr. Sayer. It's always a pleasure.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. So, we're on our journey. We're on our SEO journey. And I mean, this next topic, we could go on. I mean, this could be a whole series in itself. So, we've talked about overall strategy. We've talked about keyword research, the biggie, content. So, I'm just going to start with a bit of an overview of how I approach things. But yeah, I'm really keen to hear, and I'm sure our screaming fans will love to know more about how we approach this, and what are the top tips. So we've all heard these phrases: content is king. It's long been known that building content is good for your website, for SEO, for your business ultimately. And I've always pushed that, and particularly more so having seen Marcus Sheridan, who came up with and sort of drove the concept of they ask, you answer, which is all about building your content around answering questions. People don't want to be sold to; they want to be heard and they want to be answered. They want the information. They want to feel empowered by it. So, as part of our process, regular questions we get in become FAQs, or indeed become a blog article. How to do this, how to do that, and that's been really powerful for us in terms of a reference point. But I suppose it's more around, how is that going to help your website? How's it going to help with SEO on your website? So over to you.
Okay, huge topic. There's so much that we can talk about on this, so we need to be a little bit careful that we don't just keep.
Yeah, I think let's keep it on, on-site content, because there's all kinds of different content, right? So, on-site content, although that's quite
okay. So, from an SEO perspective, the main thing that I'd want to say is that it's very easy to create content for a website. Well, it's bloody hard to write content and produce good content for a website, but it's really easy to create content that Google doesn't love. And the assumption is, by a lot of website owners, is that as long as they're creating content, that somebody somewhere will like it, and for that reason it's going to be useful for SEO and Google will like it. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. There's so much content out there now that you really do need to have a plan when you're producing content, if you want that content to be a part of your SEO strategy and your SEO wins. So the place to start when producing content, and it matters what content we're producing. So let's cover this quickly. From an SEO perspective, there's content that leads to an inquiry or a sale, a transactional search that leads to a page, which is the answer to that search. So we would generally call these landing pages. And then we have supporting content, which is the type of content that people they're searching for and they're finding it, but it gives them an answer to the question or educates them on something, rather than that search being something that will lead to a service or an inquiry or a sale or a sign up. Okay. Now, they're both as important as each other, but they definitely play different roles from an SEO perspective. The landing pages are pages that are produced, like I said, these transactional searches that end on a visit to a page that will lead to that end goal for a website, which might be sign up for this, download so-and-so, fill out our contact form, buy a widget. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's all good, and you have to produce those pages, and you need to produce pages that are going to be specific to the types of searches that people make. And often you'll need to create different pages for different searches. It's generally not good enough for you to have a single page that kind of suits for all of these searches. Okay.
Right. Sure.
Right.
I just thought, can I just say, it might be useful to have a bit of context of how we've approached it. So we have a landing page called Web Design Catering, which is all engineered around those search phrases, right? But then we also build a lot of, we've got a blog on how to build a great landing page, how to write your value proposition, which things we get asked all the time. So we've got there's the useful content, then there's the hard working content, and I suppose it's finding that sweet balance, right?
Yeah, so your web design catering page is the page that people within that location are searching, and they'll find that page and then they'll contact you to speak about your services. Whereas your blog content or your articles and things like that, they're the type of content that helps people to learn about the types of topics that you're covering. Now, it's really obvious what those landing pages do, but in terms of blog or helpful content, I think a lot of website owners tend to assume that that's there just to show Google that their website is still alive, and it ticks that box of fresh content, which is honestly just a bit of a huge myth in the SEO world. And it got around that, and people started to believe that you have to just keep posting content because it tells Google that you're still relevant. And without posting regular content, you're effectively dead in the water. But in reality, that's just not the case. And Google hates that kind of idea because Google doesn't want endless stream of dull content. What Google really, really wants is the best content possible to in response to a particular search that somebody makes. Okay?
So it's specialisms, right? Sorry to just jump in. So it's going back to our previous conversation about the keyword research. It's all stems from your audience. So we kind of think when I'm coming up with content is right. Who's it for? Who's going to read it? What's their niche? What's their category? What's their sector?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to do all of that before you start putting pencil to paper, right? Yeah. And a lot of people don't do that because it takes a lot of work. It takes research. You have to consider your audience, put avatars in place, think about their pains and their needs, and their questions and things like that. But when you bother to do that, and when you learn how to do that really well, then you can start producing content that answers those needs, those wants, those questions, and that's what Google likes because it can show that content for that particular search. When then your helpful content starts to get some traffic and starts to get some love from Google, and also around the internet, people think it's a useful piece of content and they reference it, the authority for that particular blog or that particular article starts to grow because it's getting the love on the internet. Then you can use that authority to build up the general authority of the website and reference it and link it to those landing pages that you want to be found. Right, so it shares that link juice, it shares that authority with the rest of your website.
Link juice. Oh, that's a good phrase, isn't it? Google juice.
Just been trademarked, apparently. Not by me.
Okay, so I know we talked about the sort of on-site content, and I guess this is not necessarily an SEO thing. I don't know. You can probably tell me more. So a lot of what we do as well is to produce content to then post a link to that on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever. So again, it's building out our overall marketing strategy. It's like, right, we've got this question that people ask us. Let's make an article about it. We'll then post that on social media to have links back to this. So we're taking people from social media to our site. Now, does that benefit your SEO at all? Or is it just a market?
You need to be a little bit careful with this. You need to be careful that you're not duplicating your content and distributing it everywhere. You want to own your content and for your website to be the owner of that content. So the best way to do it is to produce content specifically for your website and separate content that's specifically for those different platforms, but they can relate then back to that content. So, for instance, if you're producing an ultimate guide on something, or you'll produce a really good article on your website, then don't just copy that and post that whole article on LinkedIn.
Oh, sure. Instead, no, we just Yeah, we'll write a paragraph about that, but click here to read it. Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or even better, you record a small video or something that kind of elevates that one message that you wanted to talk about within that, and then find out more. We've produced the ebook, we've produced the amazing article that covers all of these tops, and then topics, excuse me, and then it points back to your website. But again, that's an extra level of effort and work. These are the things that you need to be doing if you want success.
Yeah, sure.
But very few companies do it. So when you do these types of things, you start to win, and people recognize it, because
Sure,
it's not
yeah.
just a post. It's not just a couple of words. Just see our most recent blog is what you see a lot, and it's not that powerful.
It's not, no. So what I had been doing, and this is a bit lazy, but then I'm always like, yeah, keep putting stuff out there, because you've got to play the game in that sense. So I'd take the first paragraph from my article, and that's my snippet for social media.
Yeah.
But read more. But
Yeah.
what I've started doing now is rewording that, putting my personal spin on that.
Yeah.
So again, it's unique content. Is that
Yeah.
the right approach?
Look, I'm not a social media expert. However, I really like what you're doing there. And within our own company, with our own social media platforms, we're doing everything we can to try and elevate those social posts as much as possible. Yeah. It's really easy to take that first paragraph or that first sentence, but it doesn't have the same impact as it would within an article.
No, exactly.
So what we're trying to do is, and we'll probably create 5 different social posts for every blog that we place on our website, and instead of so we'll have a post which promotes the blog in total. Here's that subject, go and find out about it here, right? But it wouldn't just be a sentence taken directly off the article necessarily, unless it happened to work really, really well. But then we'll pick out maybe 4 or 5 different major points within that article that might be on a very specific area. We'll use that within the social post that says, here's an amazing thing that you didn't know. I bet you've always been blah, 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 whatever it is.
Okay,
we cover it here. So you can really make the most of that single post. Because within a post, let's say it's 1,000 words, there's lots of nuggets of amazingness within that article, and it's doing the article or the post in an injustice just by saying this is the major topic that we've spoken about.
Sure. Do you know what it's tricky, because there's different phases of business, right? And at early stages, you're doing everything, right? Your marketing, your accounts, your everything else, and this is something I actually put on a poll in LinkedIn quite recently. Is like, look, do you want an all-in-one or do you want specialists? Yeah. And for me, it's always specialists in certain things. But there's always a degree of, well, you want to do stuff. I quite enjoy writing, so I'm quite keen on writing blog posts. It's kind of, I find it therapeutic. But then I've always got to think of, well, what's our goal with this? Who's our audience? What's it going to benefit? Because, like you say, it's no point just posting stuff for the sake of posting it. It's that bigger plan, right? The bigger picture.
Yeah, you always have to think back to your target audience, your target avatar. What do they need? What are their pains? What are they after? What people tend to do, it's such an easy trap to fall within. But people talk about what they do, but that's not what your audience is after.
No. How can you help me? Right?
Yeah. You have this problem. This is how you fix it. And oh, by the way, we can help you fix that thing.
Exactly.
It seems really obvious when you say it like that, but that's not what people's focus is. We do this, we do that. And it's easy. It's easy to do that.
This is part of our web discovery process is all about, well, okay, let's find out about you and your business and what you do. Okay, but who's your client? What do they want from it? And that's so crucial. It's a real turning point, right, in that conversation. So.
Yeah. These avatars, they take a lot of time and a lot of effort.
And they're changed, right?
It's reasonably easy to put a decent marketing brief together, but then to really define, and often your audience will be split up into different avatars, and it can take hours to produce a good avatar. There's a lot of detail in there, and there's a lot of quite difficult questions that need to be answered, but when you then have done that work, and then you can look back at this avatar that was produced, It has all the answers. Let's say we were jumping on to do a video like this, or we wanted to produce a blog article for our website. If we didn't have the inspiration at that immediate point on what we should be doing, jump directly onto that avatar, and it's all there. They're trying to do these things. They've got these worries. They've got these tasks. They've got these needs and these questions. It's like, we'll pick one of them.
And hey, look, this is what this sort of vlog was born out of, right? Is how can we help our customers or prospects? What's going to be useful for them? Can they do it themselves? Is it enough for them to have a go and then actually, do you know what? Oh, I haven't got time. I need to speak to the experts, and it's all of those things, right? So
absolutely.
So okay, so that was, I guess that's covered, blogs and articles. Is that the main thing, or is it, obviously you've got pages with content as well?
Yeah.
I'm always keen to recommend that if you have 7 services, for example, don't try and push all of them. Pick the couple. What brings you the most revenue? What's your bread and butter, and what's profitable, and try and focus more around them. If that's going to help you. But is it useful to have, loads of services on one page to fill out a page content, or have separate pages for separate services?
Yeah. So from a search perspective, the answer's in the keywords. So if people are looking for a broad service, so talking about the kind of things that we do, if someone's looking for a digital marketing company, that page needs to cover the whole breadth of those services.
Yeah.
If somebody's looking for a web design company, that main page really should be focusing on web, and not, we do this, we also do this, we also do this. And the same for what we do, right? If someone's looking for SEO, then our other service is Google Ads. Do we want to be mentioning that? Well, yeah, you could mention it, but really that's their focus. So being specific is really important. But the answers are in the searches. If someone's searching for digital marketing company, don't try to sell them web design.
Yes.
Right on that page, and then
Be
maybe the decision is that keyword isn't relevant enough to who we are and what we do. So
it's being clear on what's the purpose of this page.
Yeah,
for
overview? Sure.
And it's and of course you might want to have an overview, like here's all the things we do. Click through to read more.
Yeah. And the other thing to remember, I think, is the pages that you serve to Google for a particular search don't need to be exactly the same pages that you serve to somebody who's just landing on your website or is going to your website. So this is the concern of a lot of clients when they start on the SEO journey. Oh, you want a page for this, and you want a page for that, and there's another 15 of those. Well, and they just naturally think, well, how does that sit within our primary menu? Isn't that going to be bloated? And isn't that? And they're absolutely right. If you were to shove those all within your primary header menu, that wouldn't be useful for anybody. Right? Sure. Take for instance location landing pages. You would never list all of those location landing pages within your primary navigation. They shouldn't be there. They're not for that audience. They are almost doors to your website. So separate out what the standard journey would be within a website versus pages that you want to get found when people are searching. They're not always the same thing, but there's sometimes
Do you know, this is something I find really interesting is, we're talking with a new prospect who's got a site that's been up for years. So many of them are saying, oh, we've got too much content, we need to trim it back, this is too much. I was like, no, content is good, it's how you structure it, it's how you arrange it. And then we'll look at their sitemap, and it's like, okay, what about these 10 pages? Oh, I didn't know they were there. It's like, are they getting traffic? Yes, they are. So it's kind of, it's all the hidden stuff as well. Right?
This is a big subject, and if I could send this message to every web-based company out there, I think it would really help just search in general. When you're doing those web pages, this because you just mentioned it, but it's really easy for a new web design to scrap all of those old pages and go, well, it's bloated, it was okay back then, but do we need it? And then they kind of strip everything down. They've got this new kind of streamlined customer journey, and they get rid of all of these other pages. But the fact is, if that page is playing a role in SEO, then you don't want to lose that, because chances are Google's sending you a lot of traffic and a lot of opportunity. So, okay, it might not live within your primary navigation and menu anymore. It gets moved somewhere else, but don't take that from Google. And if you find a page you think, oh, it's outdated, it doesn't really mean much anymore, then, but if it's still good for your SEO, then that's time that you need to consider about improving that page rather than just scrapping it. And
Absolutely.
then just one last thing, that we've got topical relevant content. So you might have hundreds of blogs, and if you're having this redesign of the website, you kind of go, well, everything past the last 3 years is not really relevant anymore, so let's not even bother migrating those over. But there might be a lot of really good content in there, which proves to Google that you know your industry, and it covers what is so and so, and how do you do this, and all these really important things that help your audience and proves to Google that you are an authority within that market. Don't just get rid of it. Be very careful with what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is very topical actually for me with a client we're talking to a minute. And they've got some old blog posts that get masses of hits, but for all the wrong reasons. So what do you do with those pages? Do you repurpose it? You know, do you sort of make it quite clear you've landed here for this thing? You know, because there's, you know, they've probably got high bounce rates on them. Yeah. You know, what do you do with that kind of stuff?
You have to take each blog post and you have to look at it. You have to understand what you're getting the traffic for. Is that useful? How could we use that? Could we repurpose the content? Very, very rarely would I say that there's bad traffic. So because
you never know. They might look at one thing. Oh, right, you do this. Okay.
So you can't have a blanket answer to that. And this is what people do as a mistake. They kind of go, well, all this is old stuff. This isn't really at the top of our priority. Let's get rid of it all. And it can have a negative effect. So unfortunately, this is almost always the answer with SEO. You have to take every single. It depends, but also you have to kind of look at the minute information for each one of those things and just go through page by page by page.
Yeah, sure. I've got one last point, I think, on this. Very quick question at the end. But the point is case studies. And I love these for content because it covers so many things. It's re-engaging with the client, you know, how do we do kind of thing. But also you're asking and answering questions. So what was the challenge? What was the solution? Also, you can talk about the sector. You can talk about the location. So if you work in, I don't know, Birmingham, for example, and you've got some loads of case studies about people in Birmingham, you know, is that going to all build into your SEO story for local search?
Yeah. So case studies and projects and job pages can be really good for SEO. And it depends, but how you do it really will be defined by the type of sector that they're in, the type of company that they're in. So sometimes we produce these pages with a very kind of localized approach to it. You know, here's our Manchester projects, here are our London projects, here are our particular city, town, area, nation, however. Sometimes then that's not actually, people aren't searching by location, and instead they're searching by job size or particular type of client that you worked with. So here are our enterprise projects, here are our small business projects or whatever it might be. So it changes depending on which industry and the type of website it is, but they can be really, really useful. Not even getting close to considering the importance when it comes to conversion and actually to getting traffic to turn into an inquiry or a sale, but even from a search perspective, really, really important.
Excellent. Okay, possibly the most important question of this session now. What's your favourite flavour of crisps?
Probably cheese and onion. I'm not a huge crisp lover.
Walkers?
Yeah, any crisps
just
you put in
eating
front of
onion,
me.
McCoy's,
Yeah. I'm not
Other brands
fussy.
are available.
If I'm if I'm gonna eat crisps, I'm not that fussy.
Not yeah.
No. How
Spicy
about you?
knickknacks for me. Spicy
Oh,
knickknacks.
oh dear.
Yeah.
We were doing so well.
Food of champions.
Oh dear, no.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, nice one, Chris. We took a bit longer on this one, but I think it's important. Content is, one of the biggest pieces, right? But yeah, we'll look on future ones of how that will then benefit other parts. So,
Fantastic.
awesome. All right.
Thanks, Sam. Take
Thanks,
care.
mate. Catch you later. Bye.